Hi, my name is Caroline Cameron, and today I will be talking to you about professional practices in marketing and design, specifically in furniture design. So, professional practices in interior design is to focus on what the client's wants, needs, and desires are, and how you can best cater to them while maintaining the standards, codes, and ethics of being a designer and protecting the health, safety, and welfare above all of the client while still keeping them happy. A way to help out with that is to market yourself and the best qualities you can do to provide to your client to be an interior designer. And there are many different ways you can do that. So, how I'm going to be able to talk to you about professional practices in marketing and design is to talk about an evolution of it, all the way from the very start of furniture design and construction when it started to become mass produced until today. Well, the end of the 90s, a little bit before today. So the first part I'm going to talk to you about is going to be the Gebruder Tonne chair, the Model 14 chair by Michael Tonne. It was popular at the time because it was innovative, and that was one of the marketing pulls for it. And people were very interested in the new and the now, and Tonne used that to his advantage when marketing this chair. Um, he utilized a bunch of innovation with the new concept of bent wood when he created this chair. So it contributed to the innovation that I just talked about. On top of that, it was very multi-use for both residential and commercial. And it was relatively inexpensive when it comes to furniture design. So he created a chair that was not only sturdy, but it was also lightweight, and he used that to his advantage to show how it would be helpful for both residential and commercial use. So the next piece of furniture I'm going to talk about when it comes to furniture design and construction and professional practices and marketing is the Noel Vasily chair by Marcel Breuer. It was created in 1927, and one of the interesting things about this chair is that it was created during the Bauhaus movement, some of the earlier mid Bauhaus movement times. And its focus and its marketing strategy was on function, not form. Because when you look at this chair originally, it is an interesting look. It is very odd. But Breuer, one of the things he emphasized was the fact that it's nothing, and I quote, "This metal furniture is intended to be nothing but a necessary apparatus for the contemporary life." So it wasn't originally created to be beautiful and stunning and all that, but to focus on design. And so he had to use a lot of different strategies to convince people to get this chair. And one of the things he did was to appeal to the logic of you need a chair for function, not form, or yeah, function, not form. And he also named it after Vasily Kandinsky, which I think helped to add to the marketing because Kandinsky was coming up in age and popularity at the time, and it added some credibility. And credibility is an important thing in interior design when it comes to practices, because if your customer can't trust you, then there is no relationship. And it's trust is the foundation of a relationship, and building clientele and gaining clientele in the interior design industry, because your credibility spreads through word of mouth. So another thing that is unique about this chair is that during the war, because it was made of tubular steel, they stopped producing it. So I think that's an important thing to note, because as interior designers, it is our responsibility to uphold the well-being of the world, and commit to making the world a better place. And one of those things is to not use up supplies, so sustainability. And in this sense, metal was needed during the war, so they stopped the production of these chairs to contribute to the war effort. So even though they were making money off of it, and it was something that was bringing them a lot of positivity, ethically, they knew that was not what was best for the world at the moment. Alrighty, so the next one's going to be a little bit different. So George Nelson is who I'm going to touch on versus a chair, but I will let you know this is the Nelson coconut chair made of leather and chrome. I feel like Nelson was someone very important to touch on when it comes to professional practices and marketing and interior design, because as the director of design at Herman Miller, one of the things that he left with the brand as one of the defining things were his 5 design philosophy tenets. And I'm going to go ahead and list those for you. So the first one is that what you make is important. Number 2 is design is an integral part of the business. Number 3 is the product must be honest. Number 4 is you decide what you will make. And number 5, there is a good market for design. So I think when it comes down to it, this not only holds true for Herman Miller and George Nelson as a designer, but designers as a whole. It's important as designers to keep the client in mind at all times. The client is the number one focus. The consumer, whatever you want to call it, the person who will be using the product is going to be the thing that you need to keep at the forefront of design and any sort of practice you do when it comes to being in the interior design world. So when it comes to what you make is important, I think it's important to note that even though you don't necessarily know how a piece of furniture is going to be received when it's released to the market, you know that no matter what, there will be an impact. And noting what those important key features are is one of the most important things you can do to market your piece of furniture. Now, whether that ends up being the downfall or the positive for that piece of furniture, you either are making a positive impact on someone's life, or if it needs to be removed from the market because it's not benefiting and you can make improvements, it gives ideas, it gives more market research on how to improve products for the future, because ultimately as designers it's our responsibility to make the world more accessible to everyone, but also make it so it's comfortable. The next thing to touch on is that design is an integral part of the business. While there are still business practices going on, you need to focus on business practices that are ethical, and you are trying to make money. It is important to focus on the design first, because without the design, there is no business. And the design is the good design is what is going to drive the business. But if you have bad practices, you are using sustainable methods, things along that nature, it can lead to distrust and issues within the company as a whole. It can lead to being let go of by manufacturers. It can lead to losing out on projects. It can lead to a loss of clientele. All things that are important to keep in mind as interior designers. Obviously, when you are designing, it is really important to be transparent as a designer, no matter what. And if you, like I said earlier, if you don't have trust, if you don't have honesty, then you really can't get far within the interior design world. So as designers, obviously, the fourth thing he talked about was you design, you decide what you will make. And ultimately, we can't come up with new products unless someone thinks of it. So it's important to continually be thinking about and analyzing the trends within the market, and how you can contribute to the market as a whole as a designer, and how you can make a positive impact. And then there is a good market for design. So this kind of goes along the lines of both marketing and professional practices. There's going to be clients that approach you who they might have like the best offer in the world, but you know as a designer that this client is not the right client for what you do. This isn't the right client for how you can best serve people. And it's important to let them know. Don't put profits above helping people, or don't put profits above your reputation. And I think that's really important to note within the interior design industry, is that if you can't be honest, if you can't take a look at yourself first, then you can't help other people. Back to George Nelson, and a little bit of history. This started to form the foundation for Herman Miller as a brand. He was there from 1947 to 1972 as the director of design, like I said earlier, and implementing these strategies solidified Herman Miller as its own unique brand within the company, to not replicate furniture, to not be making standardized furniture, but more unique, one-off pieces that people desire, they strive for. And the final piece I'm going to talk about is the Aeron chair. It's recent, and it is, I'm going to talk about it more from a marketing perspective, but I will touch on professional practices a little bit. So this was made by the designers were contracted by Herman Miller to make this chair. And you can do that, and sometimes you can be asked to do non-competes, or you can share the wealth with the world. But this chair was marketed in order to be lumbar supportive, but when they designed the chair, they weren't focused on that, but how it could actually best suit the customer. Thank you for your time.